All right, I am here with Michael Chandler, just a couple days removed from UFC 262. We are here to discuss everything, what's going to happen next. You actually contacted me, so I should point that out first.
I did. I reached right out, said, hey, let's work.
And I saw Chael Sonnen as well. Chael Sonnen put up a video acknowledging that you had reached out to him, and he's in a hotel. He's at a conference or whatever he's at, so you guys weren't able to meet up. But you're pretty proactive about jumping right into this.
Well, I think, number one, it depends on if you want to or not. And I do want to right away, rip off the Band-Aid, get it out there, talk about it, because I think before, when I had losses, it led to a loss streak. It led to a lot of self-pity. It led to kind of the downward spiral of being in your own head, being surrounded by these four walls in your own house with your small group of people, hiding yourself from your loss, hiding yourself from the setback. And I don't want to do that. I want to move forward. I want to rip the Band-Aid off. I want to talk about it. And obviously, if you want to talk about it, the media is not going to reach out to you. I did Bustin' with the Boys yesterday, like a podcast. And when I reached out to him, he was like, yeah, if you still want to come on, I'm like, of course I do. But so everybody thinks, hey, well, let's give him some time, let him lick his wounds. But for me, man, it's all work and it's all a blessing. And this is all part of the journey. You can't have the highest of highs without having a couple lows.
A lot of fighters have talked about that loneliness after a loss, what it feels like, and you just feel like you're totally alone after a loss. How did you feel after everything?
Honestly, I felt the same. I got a great group of people around me. If I wanted them to be around me, they would 100% be around me. I have the love and support of my wife. I got the same team that I've had for a long time, as far as like my inner circle. Obviously my camps and my coaches and stuff have changed a little bit here and there, but for the last 5 years, it's been pretty much the same people. The loneliness, I think, will only come if those people are just like bouncing out. I got a bunch of text messages on my phone right now of people who are like, hey, let me know if you need anything. Hey, let me know if you want to hang out. Let me know, But, for me right now, it's only literally, this is Tuesday morning. This is like the beginning of the week right after the weekend where I lost. So it's brand new. And, it's kind of the best time to just start talking about it and start moving past it, because the quicker you can move past this, the quicker you can start figuring out what is next, recalibrate, reassess, look at, watch, take it all in, lick your wounds, and it comes in waves every now and then. It's like, dang, can't believe that thing's over, but we'll keep moving forward.
Well, it seems like, you're I would almost describe your mood right now is almost like sober but optimistic at the same time. It's not like you're super over the top cheery, but you're also, I don't know, it seems like you're ready to get after it.
Yeah, I hit the ground running yesterday morning. It was Monday morning. I went and did a sauna. I'm going to do a workout today. I'm a professional athlete who makes, his living with his body. So like that is my job, and I take my job very seriously. So I'll be hitting the gym every day this week. Obviously with the way that the fight happened and taking damage, I'm not going to go to my gym and spar or do any kind of contact stuff, but lifting weights, running, hitting the sauna. I'm going to start vetting a couple more body work people here who can work on my body, and stay on my roller, my so right, and I just make sure the body feels good. Supplement perfectly, like I have been. I never took a moment off. Every morning, every evening, I take my line of supplements that I have, and I took them the night of the fight, took them the next morning, and haven't stopped. So we're going to keep on. The body's going to stay fueled and stay good. So
it's pretty inspiring. So if you can compare that mindset, that focus, what did that look like with past losses?
I just think back to, because I think it's one of the big chapters of my story. 688 days is how long I went without winning a fight back in 2013 to 2015, something like that. And after that first loss, I got shot out of a cannon. I wasn't ready to lose. You know, I built up my physical body. I built up a big, fast, strong, powerful, athletic flesh and bones. But mentally, when I lost that fight, I immediately wanted to hide. I immediately thought I lost all this skill. I thought I wasn't that good. I bought into the lies that was being told on social media and the media and the other fighters, and now he just wasn't as good as we thought he was. We knew he would fizzle out, blah, blah, blah. And then I started getting comfort and finding comfort in that jail cell of self-pity that I talk about. Whereas this time, I've been here before. You know, I've been there before. I remember how down in the dumps that Michael was, and how, you know, like you described earlier, lonely. How lonely I felt because, and I think it's not as though the people didn't want to reach out to me or want to be with me. It's a hard thing. It's like losing a loved one. Like, of course you want to say, you know, sorry for your loss, but you also don't exactly know how to approach that with somebody. You know, when you have a huge opportunity that's taken me 21 years to realize, to step inside the UFC octagon and take a chance to win UFC gold, people don't know how horrible that is to lose. So therefore, they also don't know how to reach out or how to win, how to say things. So it's that loneliness / people don't exactly know how to make contact, you know, like they're not gonna be like, hey man, let's go grab some beers. You know, like that maybe they would say that like had I won, but when you lose, they're kind of just like, you know, remember like poking on Facebook? Like if they could like maybe poke, you know, like let me just poke them, you know. So it's man, it's just the old Michael would have just hid from all of this, and I would have like not done interviews. I would have not been reaching out to the media to say, hey, let's move past this thing together, tell my story, because the quicker you tell the story, the quicker you can move past it.
Yeah. So in looking at that, what do you feel like the story is right now?
I mean, the story is just the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs of probably one of the most vicious sports on the planet. You know, it's just like, you know, we could very well be sitting here today with me having TKO'd to Charles Oliveira because it was that close, you know, and it's such a game of inches, and you're tied onto a tornado, and everything can be going perfectly just like it was. I mean, there was a 10-8 round in the first round on 2 of the judges' scorecards, so I got a 10-8 round against Charles Oliveira, who hasn't lost a round since 2017, I think. You know, he hasn't lost a fight since 2017, so. And I don't think he really, in any of those fights, I don't really know if he lost any rounds. So he lost 1 round in the last 4 years, and it was to me, and it was a 10-8 round. So going into the second round, I was confident. It was good. 19 seconds in, fight's over. So it's just the ebbs and the flows and the ups and the downs and the accepting of, you see, you can't, I think one of the things about the sport is you can't accept and take in stride all the good things, like the wins, the belts, the money, the media, the attention, the platform, all of the great things that this sport provides you. You can't take all that in stride without also taking in stride the losses, the pain, the loneliness, the tough times, the second guessing, the tears, the lows, you know. So I think it's just being able to tell the story between the two extremes, that this sport really is the highest of highs, and it's also the lowest of lows. But if you try to shy away from and not acknowledge the lows just because they're painful, then it starts to build and fester, and it won't release you. You know, it will sink its teeth into you, sink its hooks into you, and it will continue to follow you. Whereas when you just face the demons and you slay the dragon, and you just kind of, it's gonna haunt me for a while, but it's also, the quicker I acknowledge it, the more we can move past it.
Yeah. So, speaking of just how fresh it is, you might have said this in passing when we first got here. I could hear you watching it downstairs. Mm-hmm. Was that literally the first time, just a few minutes ago, that you watched the fight back?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen, obviously, with social media and YouTube or whatever, there's like little highlights. because even like the finishing sequence, like you never really know what you get hit with. It's such a it's a crazy sport going on, and then boom, you get hit with something, and you don't really know. Was it a hook? Was it a straight? Was it a kick? Was it So yeah, that was the first time. So I can kind of refresh my, go through the pain a little bit, refresh the memory of it all, see how it all played out, and even just, there's a weird like happy for Charles Oliveira in it too, because I think if I could just take out selfish me, take out the selfishness. Of course, honestly, I think I deserve the belt more than he does. I think I've worked harder than he does. I think I'm a better fighter than he is. I think I was winning the fight. There's all of these things that I could say, hey, I deserve to have that belt, but I just fell short that night. But there also is the part of me where I'm like, you know what? Life is life, and the evolution and the circle of life, or the circle of mixed martial arts, is just a crazy one. And I'll be back, and I'll be fighting for that title again. But watching him win it, there's like a weird kind of happy for him too. If I can take my selfish me, competitor hat off. So watching it is just kind of a surreal thing, even though I'm literally watching my life like crash before my eyes, So it's an interesting thing, man. It's a crazy sport.
Yeah. Well, why, I guess it's pretty understandable why you would wait, but thinking about you specifically and your internal reasons, what makes you wait until today, not yesterday? What makes you wait a couple days?
Well, I probably wouldn't have watched it at all if you guys weren't here, actually. And not for any other reason besides just, I was busy yesterday. We got here on Sunday, went straight to daddy duty. My son just ran up to me and got in my arms, and then we hung out all day. The rest of the day, we hit the ground running yesterday morning. He woke up at 6 a.m. I went in there and started cuddling with him and got him ready for school. Then he went to, dropped him off at school, hung out with my wife a little bit for work. And then I went to the gym, did a podcast, so just kind of like working yesterday. Spoke to my managers a couple times, spoke to the UFC. I was just busy yesterday. So it's one of those things where it's not that high on your priority list. If I would have won, probably would have been the first thing I would have done, But it's also just like, you never quite know when you're going to have that moment of, okay, let's go watch it, It just kind of sneaks up on you. But today I was kind of forced to, because I wanted to refresh my memory of it, and gave me an opportunity to be like, hey, today's the day we're going to watch it, we're going to look at it, we're going to analyze it, we're going to watch my dreams crash before my eyes, and just enjoy the process, enjoy the in real time emotion feelings that comes about, because I think that's what we miss as mixed martial artists too much. I think we, just as a whole, we try to play the tough guy. We try to play the trash talker. We try to play the braggadocious Brody, BA who the fans can't really relate to, because that tough guy shtick is kind of, I think, wearing off as well. I don't think the general public or the general fan really needs to see us talk about how tough we are, because we know we're tough. We fight in a cage for a living. So to be able to break it down and humanize myself and I think the best thing fighters can do is humanize themselves, to say, hey, just like you, the average fan base, 18 to 35, male, or whatever, like, I'm just like you, let's do this thing together.
Yeah. Well, so you said you talked to the UFC. What did those conversations look like?
Yeah, they called me and just were checking on me, how you doing? What's going on? Just checking on you. You're world class. You're right in there with the best of them, So it's one of those deals. So it's good, and spoke to my managers, and we will we're gonna rebuild. We're gonna come back, and this will all be a nice little chapter that will close, and the sun's gonna rise every single day, and we're gonna keep on getting better and move forward. But so obviously we're not talking about fights. We're not talking about matchups. We're not talking about dates. I need to take a little bit of time off. I came in hot, man. Signed with the UFC less than 8 months ago, and it seems like I've been here for 3 years, with the amount of stuff that I have done, 2 fights, fighting for a world title, the backup opportunity in Abu Dhabi, been in training camp most of the last 8 months, honestly, most of the last year in preparing for the free agency. So it's been a crazy one. It's been a fast one. It's been a busy one. So now maybe we'll take a little bit of time off, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, so what do you see in terms of that then? So your timeline, what are you kind of looking at right now? Is it just more about getting back in the gym and just getting into the flow of things? Or do you firmly have some goals set aside, like I want to fight in August, September, summer, anything like that?
No, I mean, I think before this fight, no matter what, I was thinking, obviously I thought I was going to win. That I was going to win, have the belt, and then we were going to wait to see Conor and Poirier fight in July, and then they would need 2 months of time off, so that puts you into September, and then probably wouldn't fight till December, January, or whatever. And I think that timeline is probably still where I would like to be. November earliest, December, maybe even January. I mean, I'm not getting any younger, obviously, but I still feel like I'm 25 years old. My body, athleticism, speed, power, all of that feels phenomenal. I feel like I can do this for a long time. So obviously the stakes are high, the competition is high. So no matter what, I'll step inside the cage with a top 5 guy. Next fight, by the end of the year, that'll put me right back into that number 1 contender spot or title eliminator type of scenario. I mean, the great thing is, man, you look at the lightweight division, every single person in there is a killer. Every single person in there, Dan Hooker, I think, is now he's moved down to like number 7 or 8, and then now Charles is number 1, obviously, but I still got Gaethje, Poirier, Ferguson, Beneil Dariush, Conor. Like, those are all awesome fights. I could those could be my next 4 or 5 fights, and like those are just bangers. So we'll see who the opponent is, we'll see who the name is, and we'll see who, what the date is soon.
We put out a graphic yesterday, or rather Sunday after the fight, and most people seem to be pointing towards Gaethje as the fight that they want to see. Does that fight make sense to you in your mind?
I mean, I think they all make sense, to be honest. Anybody who's ranked ahead of me. I mean, I guess essentially Connor's the only guy who's behind me inside the top 5. But anybody who's in that 1, 2, 3 position after Charles, obviously Gaethje's a name that's been thrown around 1,000 times since I signed. And now that I have a loss in the UFC, maybe people will actually say yes to fight me. I mean, that was the tough thing that we were going through signing with the UFC, is everybody either A, felt like they earned the right to say no to fight me because I'm the new guy, or they just didn't want to fight me for whatever reason. You can leave that up to people's imagination. But now that I have a loss, I would imagine people will be, okay, I'll fight that guy now, So great thing is I'm number 4 guy in the world still. Inside the top 5, I'll fight somebody inside the top 5, and it'll be a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if we can touch on some of the fight moments here, of course we'll be doing a breakdown as well here on this channel, but as it relates to some of those moments when you got him in that guillotine, for instance, did you think you almost had it? Did you watch, for instance, the Pettis fight where Pettis was able to sub him back when he fought at 145? Was there a part of you that had planned for that you had seen something like that happening?
No, I didn't really plan for it. I think just with the way, I mean, obviously my takedown defense is great, but in the fight, you can't help but get into an off-balance, weird position after I was throwing and he took a shot, and it was just, he was in on a great shot. So my instinct said, instead of sprawl and smash, just go with the guillotine and go that way. But yes, I had seen him getting guillotine before. It wasn't something we really worked and thought I was going to be able to sub him. And truthfully, I don't think the guillotine was that tight. For the people who do practice martial arts in here, listening to this, it's kind of one of those things where a guillotine can either be attacked or it can also be fallen into, or a mixture between both. That one was kind of a mixture between both. I think I was in on a shot, so therefore it was a necessity, or he was in on a shot, and I wasn't going to be able to stuff said shot because we were in kind of a weird transition. So it was more of a necessity to go for the guillotine than it was me actually attacking it. And then when I was squeezing, I gave it a nice good squeeze. Didn't really feel like it was going to be there, and I wasn't going to burn my arms out. And then I did what everybody said don't do, which is turn and give Charles Oliveira my back, which I love, and I proved to the world that that is my position. Nobody will submit me from there. I will get one-on-one, and I will reverse you, just like I've done in probably 10 different fights. Like if that position, if we get into that position, I'm going to give you my back. You're not going to be able to choke me, and I'm going to get the one-on-one, and I'm going to spin in your guard or even your figure four like I did, because that's kind of my position. And I just listened to Daniel Cormier and Joe Rogan, which Joe loves jiu-jitsu and thinks jiu-jitsu is like the end-all be-all. It's not, Joe. Charles Oliveira is the best in the world, the best in the lightweight division, and he probably would have finished a lot of people there, but you're not going to finish me there. So I've gotten in that position thousands of times in training to be able to get that one-on-one, spin out, get on top, and do damage.
Well, can you talk about then your anti-jiu-jitsu? Because that was one thing that you talked about a lot going into the fight. What is anti-jiu-jitsu?
Well, I think the biggest mistake that we can make as wrestlers, and a lot of times it's not even the wrestler making the mistake, it's the coaches. It's like, they join a team and then the coach says, okay, you're strong, you're athletic, you have this great wrestling base, you're going to transition really well into jiu-jitsu. And luckily for me, I had a coach, Neil Melanson, who was a catch wrestling, more of a wrestling dominant coach, who said, we're not going to teach any jiu-jitsu. We're not going to teach you to go to your back. We're not going to teach you to even, coincidentally go for something like a guillotine. Like I said, in that position, in this particular position, I would have much rather have been able to hit him with my hips, pull my legs back, smash him, be in a front headlock and start doing damage. But because of how fast the transition happened and he was in on a shot, I had to go for the guillotine out of necessity. But I think the biggest mistake is these wrestlers who are so dominant at coming forward, getting in your face, pressure, pick you up, put you down, be on top. They start doing things that they think is mixed martial arts or jiu-jitsu. It's like, I have to learn these new moves because that's what Royce Gracie did, and that's how, this guy gets out, and this guy gets out of the bottom via sweeps or half guard sweeps or different ways, these new moves, when really, is everybody going to be able to do what I did in the Charles Oliveira fight? Go to a turtle, let Charles Oliveira take my back, me get the one-on-one, him have a figure four around my body, me slam him and then, spin and get out. Not a lot of people are going to be able to do that, but to me, that's my style. Wrestle first, always be ready for the submission, tuck your neck, tuck your limbs, be strong, be explosive, and really, I've been training to just thwart all submission attacks for my entire career. I'd much rather just stop somebody from submitting, stop a submission, and then be able to, because you did try to submission, bam, you take damage, boom, you get hit. Here comes an elbow, here comes a fist. So it's kind of what it is. Pressure, damage, submission is kind of my style.
Interesting, yeah. Well, so what actually is your belt in jiu-jitsu? Do you have?
Don't have one.
Wow. Yeah.
Beltless.
You don't? Did you say bogus?
Beltless.
Oh, beltless.
Beltless.
I was like, man, you went full Habib, because Habib had that shirt that said if Sambo was easy, it would be called jiu-jitsu. Yeah. I thought you went there. No.
Oh man, I'm a black belt in wrestling. That's it.
That's amazing. Yeah, you don't hear about that too often. And there are a lot of other fighters that are out of that school that people just aren't realizing are purposely choosing an anti-jiu-jitsu route, as you've laid out.
Yeah, I don't want to say anti-jiu-jitsu because I own a gym here in town and we have a great jiu-jitsu program. But I'm not gonna be there trying to get my belt. I guess I never looked at it. I guess I just never looked at jiu-jitsu like I was like I needed to get the belt and the accolades. Like I kind of always just wanted to be a wrestler who stopped jiu-jitsu players from submitting me or sweeping me or whatever. And obviously I'm not perfect. My style is not perfect, but I'm pretty dang good on the ground. And I've never been submitted. And I think I proved in the last fight with Charles Oliveira having my back. Like, I think we could have fought 25 minutes there and he's still not gonna submit me. And I don't know if that's just my attributes or if it's my skill. You know, like I don't know, I don't know where the God-given abilities start and then this jiu-jitsu or anti-jiu-jitsu wrestling skills begin, you know. But I've just never, as I said, you know, when I got into the sport, Neil Melanson, we didn't really do belts. We weren't really focused on it. I've never worn a gi in my entire, actually, that's a lie. I wore a gi one time for a promotional video for a kids jiu-jitsu, for a kids jiu-jitsu video we did for Nashville MMA, my gym training camp. And that was the only time I ever wore a gi in my entire life. And I had a white belt on. I had a white belt. So I'm a world champion in Bellator at the time. And people would post like, Chandler's a white belt? Like, I'm actually not a belt at all, so if I could have not worn a belt, it would have been even better.
Wow, that's absolutely.
Or maybe like an actual normal belt, like an actual pants belt. That's what
like a brown.
That's what I should have done.
Like
Yeah.
Black belt buckle.
Yeah.
Well, then, you know, looking at where you almost finished him with strikes, one thing. So obviously, you said that you just watched it with commentary. There was a point where Daniel Cormier said, oh man, he should just let him up. And that was after he kind of did the whole, you pointed this out in the post-fight press conference, the Benson Henderson kind of movement on the ground. You landed a bunch of shots there still, but after that you followed him to the cage, basically to the mat. When you hear Daniel Cormier say that, and not just really, you know, Daniel Cormier to isolate him, I think a lot of people would say that. In your position, how much of that is adrenaline? How much of that is you had a plan to go there? Or how much of that is you did want to get up, but you felt like you almost had it? Like, how would you describe that position and following him there instead of standing it back up when he's rocked?
Well, I think, I mean, hindsight is always 20/20. So obviously here we are Tuesday after the fight. You know, things could have been differently in a lot of different scenarios in the fight. So you can always play the what if game. But I would just say, I don't think it was the right decision or the wrong decision. I think it was just a decision. I mean, also, if you look at the amount of fights that I have finished on the ground via ground and pound, conventional wisdom would also say, if Charles Oliveira is down there and he's hurt, if I keep him down there and I get on top of him and I just beat on him for the next minute and a half, I might get the stoppage. You know, so I mean, I think that's where my mind was. I think maybe right after he was rocked and still wobbled, I could have just backed off and maybe told him to come up. But once I had gone down there and hit him with a couple more shots, beat him up with an elbow, almost cut him open again with an elbow, you know, I was in a spot to be able to just continue to pour it on him, you know, and that's where I was. I think I poured it on him till the end of the round. I went back to my stool, back to my corner, confidence sky high, ready for the second round to be much like the first, of just keeping the foot on the gas. And if it was a 25-minute war of attrition, I was eventually going to win that battle. So one of the easiest paths to wearing somebody down is being on top and beating on them, you know. And then especially him as a jiu-jitsu player, him not being able to, you know, throw up submissions or tie me up. He tied me up for a few seconds, which, you know, that was the only point where I was like, okay, this is kind of silly. Maybe we should stand up. But not really. You know, I mean, I enjoy being on top in someone's guard, and then when I see an opening, hitting them, you know, so. Absolutely.
Well, so is there anything that you do want to say about the finishing sequence and, you know, watching that back for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, it's the fight game. It's a game of inches. I mean, Charles Oliveira did a good job of just, I think he stayed very basic and sharp. You know, he's got those long arms and he throws ones and twos and hooks. I mean, we knew going into the fight, film study wise, he doesn't throw a lot of long combinations. He just throws one shot. So we just needed to be prepared to not get hit with the one shot that he was going to throw. And I think I threw a right hand to the body, and then he followed up with a hook, perfectly timed, perfectly placed hook. Boom, hit me in the chin, and then rolled backwards or whatever, and then I was up against the cage, and then that was kind of the finishing sequence. So it's just crazy. I mean, I think more than anything, it's just unfortunate how, it's not unfortunate. I don't want to say it's unfortunate. It's just interesting how crazy the sport is, that you can be, you're winning that well in the first round, and it was great. It was fun. It was entertaining. Houston was going nuts. People loved the slam. They loved the reversal. They loved me dropping him. They loved him taking the shot and the guillotine. Like, it was just constantly roar after roar after roar, and it was a lot of fun. And then I go back to the stool, and every time between rounds, people hear the bell, and then they're like, they're clapping and cheering, like that was a great round, kind of applauding you for a great round. And then we got one of those, and then 19 seconds, 17 seconds into the second round, the fight's over, So it's just such a crazy, interesting, unfortunate / fortunate love story of craziness, mixed martial arts is. Because I've been in that situation too, where it's like, it's a crazy round, and then all of a sudden, boom, the fight's over, and I'm like at the hands of me. I'm like, wow, okay, I just knocked him out. It's over. This is great. Let's go do a backflip and collect your paycheck or your belt. This time I was on the receiving end of it, the wrong end of it. So, just watching it back too, just watching myself in the octagon after the loss. I think just seeing, it's a loss, and it's painful, and it sucks, but it's also just like, it's also happiness. It's also you shot your shot and you missed. You fell short, you missed the mark, But if you don't miss the mark here and there, people don't have something to really be inspired by, And I hope at least people saw me miss the mark on Saturday night, watched my dreams shatter before their eyes, and hopefully they can take something from it. And as I move forward with complete disregard to that loss, and we're going to recalibrate, we're going to reassess, we're going to get in some more fun, exciting matchups with some of these top lightweights, and we're going to entertain, and we're going to have a good time. And I'm always going to put my best foot forward, and I'm always going to try to operate with integrity, operate with character, operate in a manner that I want my son Hap to see someday, that he can look me up and say, okay, Daddy lost these fights, and he lost this, what did he say after this one? What did he say after this one? What did he, and then, oh, here's an interview of his employer, whether it be Bellator or whether it be Dana White. What did these guys say about my dad? Because I think that's what's going to be most important, because I can tell him all day long, hey, Daddy is this, I did that, I am this. But when it comes from other people, or it comes things he can watch and see, that's the big masterpiece that I talk about painting. Painting every win, every loss, every interview, everything I say, everything I do is another brushstroke on this big masterpiece that he will someday be able to see. And I want my life and my career, the ups and the downs, the wins and the losses, I want it all to be a blueprint for him. And other people I haven't met, people I haven't had personal touch with, like, just to say, hey, because this small guy from this small town who was taught to do small things, decided to disregard those things he was hearing, those lies that he was being told, and those ceilings that were being put on him, those limits that were being put on him, because he disregarded those, he moved forward and did some great things, then I can too, So I just want that, and I think, this life and this career gives me that opportunity, and I'm very thankful for it. Win, lose, or draw. So even watching myself lose, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. There's a great feeling and a great amount of happiness and contentment that comes with being exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, and I truly believe I'm doing that.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of painting that masterpiece, you have 3 world titles with Bellator. You've now fought in the UFC, had that huge win against Dan Hooker. You've now fought for a title, almost finished the now champion. What do you need now? Like, do you feel like you need that UFC title in order to complete your masterpiece, or can you, a few years down the line, if that didn't happen, can you look back and say, with a sense of completeness? Can you look back at it?
That's a great question, because it's a great question, and I think you would be surprised to know that I don't need the world title to be happy with my career, truthfully. I think now that I have, just with the way that my certain career has gone, I think there's a lot of guys who would sit here and say, no, I have to win the UFC title or else my career, I'm gonna have regrets, right? But for me, being outside the UFC for so long, being regarded as one of the top guys for so long, yet I wasn't in the UFC, and there were so many people who said, okay, well, if you think you're that good, you need to come to the UFC and prove it. Coming to the UFC and knocking out Dan Hooker, and then now fighting Charles Oliveira, and did I lose? Yes, I lost, but I lost in a world title fight, and I also had him on the ropes, almost finished him, had a 10-8 round, first round. So if you want to sit here and say I'm not up there with the best of them, you're kind of kidding yourself, So when it comes to talent and when it comes to that, the accolades, like I'm right there with those guys. I think the biggest thing that I would have regretted was never testing free agency and never coming over to the UFC whatsoever, and that's why I made the decision. And with my wife and my mentors and management, we made that decision. Number one, because the door felt like it was finally open, and number two, I just imagined myself at 40, who, if I stayed with Bellator and never left, or even if I went to one of the other organizations, there's some great organizations out there, One Championship, or PFL, all those guys were offering me great contracts, but I knew I needed to go to the UFC, and I actually, in the countdown show or the lead up show, the one that's narrated by Ron Perlman, amazing piece, and one of the greatest things that he said in it that I've ever even heard, it gave me goosebumps, was, but Chandler's legacy can only be written in the octagon. And it's true. I mean, it really is true. If you really want to build this legacy, me personally, it could only be written in the UFC octagon against the biggest names, the highest level competition at the highest level. And I've gotten to do that thus far. But I just imagine the 40-year-old me, trying to sleep at night on this pillow that feels like a cinder block because I just can't sleep, knowing I never tested myself and took a chance on myself, just like I did. The blueprint was already there. I walked on to the University of Missouri. The lowest guy on the totem pole. I was not a state champion. I walked on. There was 40-something guys on the team. I was the lowest guy on the lowest rung. Coaches didn't talk to me. Coaches didn't look at me. But I worked hard, tried to do my best. Ended up making the team, becoming a four-time national qualifier, an All-American, and that propelled me into mixed martial arts. So why would I not take a chance on myself again and walk on to the UFC, so to speak, when I had the certainty of Bellator, had the certainty of even better, more lucrative offers outside the UFC? What does that say about how it worked out well in the first place when I walked on to the University of Missouri? What does that say about me if I don't do it again? So my legacy and my career is already complete. That's why I say things like I feel like I'm fighting on borrowed time at this point. I feel like I'm where I need to be. And when you're doing what you're called to do, what you were fashioned, what you were built, what you were born to do, and you're in the right place, on the right stage for a fighter in the right promotion, then man, you're just living the dream. And that's what I'm doing. So enjoy a little bit of downtime. Do a lot of this stuff. Get on the mic, get on the desk, start doing some commentary. Maybe stay working. And the good thing is I'm not the guy who just relies on a paycheck inside the octagon. Like, I have things outside of the cage, outside of the competition, to pay the bills, because I've set myself up like that, and just stay working in the media, on camera, on the microphone, with my boys at MMA On Point. No free shouts. Just enjoy the ride, man, and just keep on living the dream, because this is a dream I get to live, and I get to live it because of people like you and fans like everyone tuning in today, man. It's a lot of fun, and we are far from over.
Amazing. Well, I really appreciate the time. Thanks for meeting with us, and everybody stay tuned for that breakdown video. So appreciate
Yes,
you,
sir.
Michael.
Thank you.